Now, we'll first go through what is the theory of Max Weber about social action. Now, when I say social action, Weber used social action and ideal types as the basis of his theoretical framework. I mean, when can any action be called social? It can only be called social by the virtue of meanings attached to it by the actors. Whenever actors are attaching some meaning to it, they are also taking into account the behaviors of others and how others will react to it and how they will orient this social action towards them. For any action to be social, therefore, from this definition, it is clear to us that for any action to be social, there are two tests. One is the test of consciousness, and the other is orientation. Now, what does that mean? If meaning is attached to any action by the actor, then obviously it will tell you that the actor has consciously taken a decision to act according to a certain way. Then the meanings will be generated. Those meanings will reflect upon the motivation which the individual has regarding that social action. Now, as you have seen in the theory of Emile Durkheim, external influence of value was on a higher pedestal than the internal conscious nature of human being. In his theory, Weber has reflected upon that notion. He rejected the external influence of value but says that values are interpreted by the actor according to his motivation. That means that value is generated, value is there lying in the society. Now, interpretation of that value lies in the hands of the actor. Now, he, according to his motivation and action, he interprets those values. Now, only those actions which have an orientation. For example, I am teaching. If I am teaching to certain student or to a group of students or to a broadcast medium, then obviously it is oriented to some object. So therefore, orientation can be mental or physical. I mean, you are not present right now in front of me, but it could have been the situation. So if you would have been present here, then the action would have been orientation would have been physical. As you are not here, the orientation is mental. He also differentiated between action and behavior. Now, behavior is a biological concept. You behave depending upon what experiences you carry, and it is the element of a human consciousness which is spontaneous in nature, and there is no meaning attached to it. This is just your behavior. Like you see a snake, it might be poisonous or it might be not, but what your experience or what your learning tells you that you have to run or either you have to kill it. This is the behavior. Now, establishing now he is relying upon he is basing his theory upon deciphering the meaning that an actor attaches while in any action or orienting any action. So there is an element of consciousness and orientation which is attached to any action. Now, how to establish the meaning? How do you establish the meaning in any interaction, social interaction? So he has devised a way of Verstehen. Now, what in the initial introduction, I just told you that he relied his thesis upon empathetic understanding of the phenomena of the actor. So what does empathy means? Empathy means comprehending or understanding at the level of the actor. It involves imagining yourself in place of the actor and then comprehending the meaning by using some simple steps of investigations. Now, there is a person who saw a wild leopard and he killed him. So, we'll see how you can analyze his action. First, you should reconstruct situational choices and constraints of the actor. Now, there was a small kid inside a room, and the leopard was roaming there, and as a father, he had to do it. And then you also imagine his own life choices. I mean, you come at a particular wavelength in which he thought that there might be a chance that animalistic tendency would have been shown by the leopard. So, therefore, you would how you would develop come at the wavelength of that person. You will interact with him, you will communicate with him, and remember, there is a thin line between empathy and sympathy. You should know the difference between the both. While you are understanding his situational choices and constraints, you should not let your feelings impact. I mean, you after listening to their story, their side of the story, you might think that it is favorable or disfavorable to what you believe in or what your motives or what your understandings in life are, beliefs in life are. So you should leave those aside and just follow an empathetic approach without getting into sympathy with the actor. Finally, when you have ample amount of resources, you directly get down to a conversation with the actor and use primary sources of data collection to establish the meanings. Now he gave a concept in social research. You will understand. I have also included it here. He used causal pluralist methods. Now, what are causal pluralist methods? These are probabilistic methods. These do not believe in singularity of cause. There is no singularity of cause, but there are variety of plural causal factors. For example, if you are understanding, you are going through that you want to understand the meanings attached by the actor when he's acting in a social situation, so you can club Verstehen approach with other methods like ideal types. Now, when you are reading this, you will get a tinge of multivariate analysis which Durkheim used. Any action, then what you do is using Verstehen approach, you create situational choices and then you also determine the ideal types of different type of actions and decipher the meanings attached. Now you compare action in a particular situation with the ideal types which you have generated, and this in a way ideal types, I'll explain you what are ideal types, but just say that there are like 20-30 variables in a particular equation or in a particular observation. Then out of those 20-30, you just choose the recurring variables which are occurring in different social situations, and then you generate this ideal types. So I'll explain you, but you just have a brief idea about it now. Now these ideal types just create a ready model for reference and thus saves time of investigator. I mean, these will have to be seen at the first instance. Now carefully see this diagram. I'll just expand it for you. So he said that there are different types of social action. Now you just see these are four ideal types of social action. One is Zweck rational. Now Zweck rational is ends determine the goals. I mean, only the ends are the major things which you are considering while acting. Second is value rational, word rational. Societal values and norms are the governing factors here during any social action of this type. Your action might be affected by the emotions, so therefore effective action. Your action might be affected by the influence of customs and habit, thus the word traditional action. Now I have given them in detail here that what is traditional. So in traditional social actions, meanings are drawn from certain beliefs and customs. So when I'm saying certain beliefs and customs, these are already given due regard by the actor, and he is not overthinking on whether these beliefs and traditions are a thing to ponder about. He just accepts them and he just generates meaning out of them in traditional social action. In effective social action, meanings are generated due to emotions of an actor. I mean, the actor's consciousness is more uh, in a way that meanings are generated from the emotions, from different type of emotions. Then Zweck rational, I already told you that it is goal oriented, means, for example, while undergoing any scientific research like corona related to medicines during the time of coronavirus. Then is the word rational. Now in word during what is the word rational? It is the value of societies are the undercurrents here. I mean, whenever you are taking any social action, it will be according to the values provided by the societies. Now after going through this is how you will proceed in your examination. You will first introduce Max Weber, his book, you note it down. You will see when any action is social action, and this is where you will give two conditions for any action to be social. Then you will differentiate between action and behavior. Then you will tell about the Verstehen approach and how you will mix it with ideal types. Then you will tell about the types of social actions and you can briefly explain them. Now we come to the criticisms. Now, when you are going through it, you are seeing too much reliance upon the intention and the meaning generated out of motivation. There is a tendency to neglect unintended meanings and consequences of social actions. It even ignores the influence of social structure. Social structure cannot be completely ignored. Then again, there is no mention of collective action of the individuals. And it will you will feel it amazing that Parsons has even expanded the scope of social actions. You just have gone through functionalist theories and it has become clear. Now both ideal types and Verstehen. Verstehen is empathetic learning. So no matter how hard you try, there will always be a factor of subjectivity. During when you are choosing certain variables out of a set of variables observed, you are segregating those variables. These are just the ideal types. How to generate the ideal type? There will be a component of subjectivity. Now we'll go through the second theory of Max Weber, which is about ideal types. Now you know that social reality is complex. As it is complex, you divide it into parts, and while dividing it into different parts, certain parts are considered more important than others. Now, those segregated important parts become the basis of construction of ideal types, and then you make an inquiry upon them. Now, this is a definition which you can, if you quote it, it will be very good for the examiner to learn. An ideal type is formed by a one-sided attenuation of one or more points of view and by a synthesis of great many diffuse, discrete, more or less present and occasionally absent, concrete individual phenomena. It constitutes various elements which, though are abstract, but can be later recombined and reconstituted to understand a particular reality, which are arranged according to those one sidedly emphasized viewpoints into a unified analytical construct. Now it will become more clear if I go through the what I have included here. Now, ideal types, we just saw that in social action, ideal types provide an objective methodology to study such social action. And this is not new. You just saw it in suicide multivariate analysis. So he chose certain variables depending upon the data he got from different police stations in Europe. We'll see the viewpoint of Luckman about them. He says that ideal types are act as measuring rods. These act as measuring rods for the investigator to study social phenomena. To study social phenomena. I'll just bold it down. Weber says it is not a reality. It is not the reality. He is non-conformist type of person. It is not a reality but a way to express the reality. When he says it is a way to express reality, he depends upon the observation of the social scientist. These are just the fixed point of reference. Although these are to be derived from the real world, they cannot be said to be mirror images of it. They are just one-sided exaggeration based on researchers' interest. One-sided exaggeration based on researchers' interest. Depending on what he is observing in the real world and considers important from the real world. Ideal type can thus be said a middle ground between nomothetic and ideographic knowledge. I mean, values are also important. You just go back to research methods. What we did in Unit 3. It will be better clear to you. He just says that ideal types need not be too general or too specific. These need not be too general or too specific. These are developed for the intermediate phenomena. You will see in Protestant Ethics and Spirit of Capitalism, he has drawn ideal types for both Calvinism and for capitalism, and then he saw the commonalities between them. And people will actually criticize based on that only, that while choosing these elements, he was subjective. Now, see, where do you usage how you now this can be said to be a heuristic device usage of ideal types. Weber used ideal types extensively in economic and social organization, the city and sociology of religion. Ideal types developed by Weber are grouped into many categories. For example, ideal types of historical particulars like that of ancient city. It can be an abstract phenomena like social action and authority. Then it can be a particular economic and political behavior. So you can just categorize it depending upon which category it belongs to. Now, as it can be generated out of the variables which are observed, the variables are changing due to the changing nature of the society. So, a lot of discretion to the concept is caused by the investigator. Now we'll understand the theory of Weber authority related to authority. Max Weber demonstrated ideal types in action via his concept of authority. He says that power and authority are social in character and only come to play their role when relations are there. The linking was done using different ideal types. Now, what is power? You should know this first. It is the chance of a man or group of men to realize their own will in a social action or communal action against the will of people or group of people in a social action often against their will. Now, how power is different from authority is or from coercion when there is legitimacy to power attached, like you select a government, it becomes legitimate. Any exercise of power then would be called authority. Both authority as well as power has an element common to them, that is coercion. Now we'll see what is authority and its sources. Now Weber says that there are three sources of authority. One is tradition, second is rationality, and third is charismatic, affective. Now these are the type of leaders also. I will see how. Now, while what is traditional authority? Traditional authority is when authority is derived from beliefs, customs, norms, values. Now it can be of three types. One is gerontocracy, which is the rule by the elders, patriarchalism, rule by the males, feudalism, then rule by the people who own the land, or they are traditionally ruling class. So therefore he also argued in a way that this tradition is in loggerheads with the rational authority, because rational authority says that reason and logic are important, but tradition, like just see the elements now. Gerontocracy is ruled by elders, so if you go by rational logic, rule by elders might or might not be good. Take the example of khap panchayats. Then rule due to patriarchalism also will not, because those who inherit positions from the past or who males or any such stratification, those will be the heads, those will exercise authority. This is also not compatible with reason and logic. So does feudalism, those who own the land and historically are influential. So all these traditional authorities, these in a way act against the spread of capitalism. Now rationality. So what does rationality mean? Rationality means that it is based upon rational social action. For example, rationally organized societies. In all such kind of societies, you will observe that there is a organization with a well defined structure, rules, procedures, hierarchy, schedules. So it will be bureaucracy. By that I'm referring to bureaucracy. Then the third type of authority is effective or charismatic. Now, why do people love Mahatma Gandhi or Nelson Mandela so much? It is not because of what property they owned, but it was due to the reason that they had a charismatic personality. They could gather the crowds. He took the fast. So you understand my point, right? Now this is just an infograph which is showing that what are the different kinds of authorities. In charismatic authority, I'll also add one point. In South India, you have megaliths. These megaliths are big boulder stones. These show a kind of valor in the society. These are the valor. These are sources of authority which grant those heroes that they have played a major role for their particular ethnicity or a particular race. Now, why? Now, out of this concept also there is criticism. We just saw that he mentions four types of ideal social action. To revise it, it was traditional, second was word rational, third was Zweck rational, fourth was effective. So, but only three types of authorities have been mentioned. So this is a major one of the major criticism. It doesn't go in line with the thesis of Michael Foucault. Michael Foucault, you can associate him with discourse analysis. He says that power in a society is dispersed. Then Robert Dahl refers to situational authority. I'll also give you one another word, episodial, episodical, episodical accountability. Like we choose our leaders for the 5 years, only after 5 years we can hold them accountable. Now, it is clear to you that actual authority might be a combination of all these type of authorities. Okay. For example, Nehru, how Nehru ruled. Now we will go into his another thesis related to bureaucracy. He understood bureaucracy in such a way that because of industrialization, modernization, society is getting transformed. It is forming into a very complex structure. To manage the work in such a complex structure, bureaucracy is an effective tool in the hands of society. He defined it as an ideal type of organization which is based upon the exercise of rational legal authority. He found this common in almost all types of modern societies where work was done or was performed rationally. He told it is a hierarchical organization rationally designed to coordinate the work of many individuals in the pursuit of large scale administrative tasks and organizational goals. How is it linked to capitalism? Now, in capitalism, you saw that how industrialization and modernity is associated with capitalism. Therefore, capitalism requires bureaucracy for smooth functioning, like managerial level people. And moreover, if bureaucracy is effectively designed, it can lead to highest degree of efficiency. And this efficiency is of the utmost importance to uh, undertake different type of works in a capitalism to generate more goods and services for the people, ever increasing unfulfilled needs and desires of the people. Now, he also distinguishes between bureaucracy and bureaucrat. Weber distinguished ideal type of bureaucracy from ideal type of bureaucrat. Now, bureaucrat is a position, but bureaucracy is a structure. So, this is the only fact which you need to know. This book you can quote in your examination. So, it was Tony Waters and Dagmar Waters, Weber's Rationalism and Modern Society. This book is important, you can quote it. It contains the major ideas told by the Weber on bureaucracy. So again I repeat, the book is by Tony Waters and Dagmar Waters, which is Weber's Rationalism and Modern Societies. So these are just the elements associated with the bureaucracy. You can go into it. It is much like what you expect from the government service. Now he is also skeptical about bureaucracy. He says that too much rigidity with the rules and laws lead to alienation of human beings. This at times act as iron cage of rationality enslaving humanity. Personal liberty and creativity might be at threat because of the too much rules can shun it. You have seen the practical manifestation of it. Dictatorship of officials in future. You know that politicians are not that much technically sound, so they can be run over by these career bureaucrats. Now, why his criticism is so much difficult, I'll tell you. Because he is a kind of sociologist who is non-committal and non-determinist. Now see, in all his theories, he was kind of, a major word is being used depending upon sociologist, depending upon researcher. So while generating also ideal types also, he is saying use empathetic approach. He is just giving the guidelines to make ideal types, but not suggesting how to take make ideal types, right? So these are just guidelines which can be followed, and it will depend upon the perception of both the observer as well as researcher and the one whose observation is being undertaken. Therefore, still will see what other people have told about them. Human beings cannot be purely rational. You just see, take example of mob behavior. Then Robert Michaels in Political Parties has told that due to bureaucracy in any democracy, it is reduced to oligarchy. He gave a notion of cogs in organizational machines. So Roberto Michaels, cogs in organizational machines. He said human beings cannot be purely rational creatures. Now, organizations need flexible behavior to deal with uncertain events. Now, there will be some scientists like Alvin Goldner who will say that there is a presence of informal bureaucracy. That even within the formal bureaucracy, there is informal bureaucracy. He took the example of study of minds. Now, Porwell said that even influential people within the bureaucracy may usurp. Now, Latif Chaudhry, you can quote it in their examination. He studied corruption in Southeast Asia, and he just referred to two types of bureaucracy. He said at lower level there is a behavior of rent seeking. They won't work unless pushed with money, and at higher level there is money taking in policy making. So relatively whatever we have learned, these two infographics are just displaying that only. So go through them, take a rest for 2-3 minutes, and then we'll compare with Marxian approach and Weberian approach. So just have a look at it. We'll take break for a minute and then we'll continue. Okay. So I see that you might have gone through advantages of bureaucracy and features of bureaucracy. Now we'll see and compare the sociological approach of Marx and Weber. Now, first of all, unit how do they view society? So Marx has taken society as a unit of analysis, while Weber studies in terms of meaning attached by the actors. So Marx's view of capitalism, Marx has taken a repugnant view of the capitalism, while Weber has taken he just combined the philosophies of different religion and saw which ones are compatible with the capitalism. He drew ideal types for it. Then emergence of capitalism. He saw capitalism in a shift in the mode of production, basically factors of productions and relations of production. But Weber sees it connect he connects it with the particular religion. Then consequence of capitalism. Marx is of the view that it has just created haves, have nots, alienation, classes. But Weber relies upon rationalism. Like capitalism had led to rationalism and new structures to manage it. Stratifications. He just referred to Marx just referred to single mode of stratification that was based upon the class. But Weber has chosen both CSP Trinitarian model. You can write it here. Trinitarian model. Now, what is the solution proposed? Marx saw a revolution as the end point of it, and as compared to him, Weber sees no end to rationality, as it is necessary. Rationality is necessary. So, in the above infograph, I just showed you the thinking of both of the important sociologists related to religion. Now I will tell you about the his actual study on Protestant ethics and spirit of capitalism. Now this book you need to know, Protestant Ethics and Spirit of Capitalism 1904. He makes use of scientific methods. He studies macro phenomena in terms of micro, demonstrating causal pluralism, probabilism, factored political, economic, and religious factors in the rise of capitalism. Now you just see, okay. So in the above table, we have compared him with Marx. During in the Protestant ethics and spirit of capitalism, class has not been taken as a major factor here. There are political factors which he included, there are religious factors which he included, but Marx is only about economic determinism. Okay, so this is how he is different, sociologist, from Marx. Now, how his analysis started, he saw that in modern Europe, business leaders, owners of industries, higher skilled labor managers, and highly trained technologically and commercially trained personnel of modern enterprises, these were predominantly Protestant. He developed ideal types of both capitalism and Protestant ethics. And then he compared, and then he also created ideal types of other religions. We'll see which other religions he took as a print. And in the ideal type of capitalism, he observed that economic system, now capitalism is all about accumulation, generation, and accumulation of wealth. Work is organized rationally because of the modernity, industrialization scale of work. They took take profit as a blessing. Now, individualism, innovation, hard work, and profit are honored. And if you see the ideal type of Calvinism and you just start comparing them, Calvinism is based upon the doctrine of predetermination. I mean, you people, some people go to heaven, but the main thing here is nobody knows who. So they will toil hard, they will work hard and see that if they are getting blessed in the form of profits, or wealth, they'll say that they are being the chosen ones. They won't believe, they won't reduce them their thinking into fatalism. They will choose this worldly asceticism. They will believe in hard work and self discipline, which is a basic tenet of capitalism. They will say work is worship and all work is sacred. They will attach a notion of calling to it. They'll say that God has created world for his own glory, not for the glory of anybody else. They don't believe in the mediation of any priest. And they see that wealth has is to be, now in capitalism wealth was to be the base element of economics. They'll say that wealth has to be conserved and devoted to God. Now if you closely compare, you see that doctrine of predestination actually leads to anxiety, insecurity, and success is seen as a gift of God. So that is why people will work hard for it. They will work hard to achieve it. Therefore, there is a kind of elective affinity. Please note this word, elective affinity, between some elements of Protestant ethics and capitalism. Now we'll see. He has concluded that why in other comparisons capitalism not was not developed. In the book Religion of China 1951, Religion of India 1958, Ancient Judaism 1952. So you just remember it like this. I'll just change the order so that you might not get confused. Huh? So yes, I will just do that here. So first he did a study on religion of China. Now religion of China, Confucianism. It is more about giving than taking, collective harmony, peace, ethics. Ancient Judaism, they had the capitalist spirit, but the substance was not there. I mean, they didn't have the required resources with them. And then now we see religion of India. Now karma, dharma, and punarjarma. These are just like everything is already predestined and caste and all system. This in fact hindered the development of capitalism. So now what are the viewpoints of other sociologists? Now Michael Shia, he says there were other factors too which contributed to rise of capitalism, such as the set of uh, values combined with the hard work. Then you also see that how is it different from the approach of Durkheim. Now, Durkheim studied religions extensively from far flung areas. Like, he was superimposing the religion of the primitive people upon the modern day complex religion. He was just doing this. He was just uh, doing this to get better insights into the modern day religion. Now, I have again told you that he is non-conformist, he is non-committal, and you just referred those words are very important. Non-determinist. So non-committal and non-determinist. So he is a non-conformist and non-determinist sociologist. That is why even in his criticism seems faring him well. I mean, consolidating his viewpoint. Now he only concentrated on certain aspects of religion while he ignored others. This was the point even took over by Michael Shia. And then you see doctrine of calling, like in Christianity there are two things, two sects. One is Catholics and Protestants. So people say that doctrine of calling was also there in Catholics. Milton Singer says that he took elements very selectively. Lawrence Stone says British aristocratic had more important role than Protestant ethics in capitalist development. It is in fact true. Finfani and Dickinson. Capitalism was established much before than IR. This is a true aspect. Finfani and Dickinson. Just know these names. Now we will see R.H. Townett. Protestantism itself is a product of rationalization. So you don't need to cram all of these. Just go through the base concept. You will 2 3 points naturally will come. Then 2 3 names you take. Like Milton Singer, okay, you take the name of Michael Shia, who says there were other factors. Then Milton Singer, he says he took elements selectively. So these two are enough. And out of all these, all the left, just take one name. Bendix Lipset seems familiar to me. So I'll say that Germany went for capitalism, borrowing substance and value from others. Now this will naturally be a corollary of what I told you, that different religion. He studied religion of China, religion of India. So here, having a substance doesn't matter. So when I am referring to the concept of spirit and substance, this is very important for you to know that what is this concept. I'll explain you here. Now take the example of a tribal societies. What is their priority? Their priority is just to live for the day. I mean, they won't they won't get down to that level ki, they will just live according to the needs of the day. So values are present? No, they don't want wealth and accumulation. They just believe in living for the day. Is substance there? No. No resources. They are not efficient at utilizing it. Then Europe. Obviously, they live for the wealth. Value is also present. Substance is also present. So capitalism is also there. Now blacks. Their main concern at that point of time was for rights. Value was there. Yes, they wanted to be like other Europeans, but there was no substance because they were cornered by whites. Then this is the concept of spirit and substance, that unless and until you have substance along with the spirit, capitalism will not develop and take roots. Now again, now in conclusion, you will write that Chicago, his Weber's perspective were later followed by Chicago schools. He never claimed of giving universal theories but cause and effect relationships. Even Ritzer, his book, I have used notes from his book also. Even George Ritzer used Weberian perspective in his McDonaldization of society. I mean, how MNCs take roots into different societies. So this is it. This is it related to Max Weber. Now, tomorrow we'll go through the theory given by G.H. Mead, especially self and identity, I and me, and then we'll finish it with Arif Kaufman's and labeling theory. And okay, guys, so take care.